Hey, what's up YouTube? Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your starter on a 2005 Toyota Matrix. And this will be the same process for a Toyota Corolla or a Pontiac Vibe. It has the same engine. This is the 1ZZ-FE. This vehicle does have over 300,000 miles, and that is the original starter according to the owner. I mean, you'd think they would make these starters to last a little bit longer than that, but oh well, we'll have to change it. And the starter is right down here underneath the intake manifold. I'm going to take the fan out and the overflow here. They're just kind of one piece molded together. There's only two 10mm bolts that hold that in, and just have to release this hose and the electrical connector. But once we get that out of the way, it'll be a lot easier to get to the starter. It's also going to be easier for me to get the camera in there and show you the process. It's possible to change the starter without taking out the fan. So if you don't want to take out the fan, you don't have to, but I don't think there's enough room to pull the starter out from above. You might have to drop it down below and put the new one up in from below as well. Hopefully this way I'll be able to get the camera down there a little bit closer and show you what's going on. Now the first thing we need to do is disconnect the battery, and I'm going to take off the negative cable here. It's a 10mm. And then make sure we tuck this down out of the way so that it's not going to flex back up and touch that post. Now I'm going to take out the two 10mm bolts that hold this fan and overflow in place. And then we can disconnect this rubber hose right here for the radiator overflow. Just twist that and pull it off. Now to disconnect this cable here, you can see it's already pulled out of one of these plastic clips, but just push that in with your finger to release it and pull it back. This connector is mounted to the fan shroud by these two little plastic clips. This one here was already broken, and the other one over here, all we need to do is pry that out. All right, that came out okay without breaking the plastic. A lot of times they will break, but we can tuck this over here out of the way. All right, then we should be able to pull this fan out. Carefully, just pull it straight up, and we'll set that out of the way. Okay, so here's our starter, and here's our main cable underneath this boot, and then here's the signal wire that's this little plastic clip. And so to get to this one here, just pull back on that rubber boot just a little bit, or just kind of push it out of the way, and then we can get a 12mm socket on here and loosen and remove this. And then here's the signal wire. So basically just push in on this little button right here. See right there, it's kind of clicking, and you should be able to slide that out like that. Now we can loosen and remove this bottom bolt here. That's a 14mm, and I'm just using a short socket. This is the socket that holds on to bolts and nuts so that they don't fall down. This is a Koken brand, and I'm using a short extension and a pretty short ratchet here, and we'll just break that loose. And we'll just zip that out the rest of the way. There it is. All right, now for the other starter bolt, you just kind of have to get your wrench down through here with a 6-inch extension and slide underneath this little cable here. All right, that right there is the bolt. And like I said, we just need to get a 6-inch extension and get down underneath there. It's really not that bad. You just kind of got to go underneath the electrical cable here. Here, let me show you how I got my wrench set up here. So I'm just using a long-handled ratchet here and have my extension. I just went behind this here, underneath, and then it's on the head of the bolt right there. But that's it right there. All right, and then we can just break that loose. Now, once you have it broken loose, you can get on here if you want to with a little electric or battery ratchet here. This is just a Milwaukee. This will zip this off a little bit quicker. Now, while you loosen this, you might just want to support the starter. See how it's kind of dropping down a little bit? Just support that with your other hand. It'll take some pressure off that bolt while we loosen it. You can see how the bolt stays on the socket there because of this little holding function that this has. It's pretty neat. All right, and that starter should just come right out now. If it's stuck on there, you might have to hit it with a little mallet, but this one came right out. Now you just want to compare the new with the old. You can see that it comes with this nut right here with a little lock washer. Let's go ahead and take that off first. And now we're ready to go put the remanufactured starter in. Get that lined up down there and just push the nose of the starter into the bell housing. Just make sure that that seats all the way and that looks good. Now you're going to want to inspect the bolts, make sure that they're clean. If there's junk on there, you want to clean that. But these look like they're good to go back in. And you can see that socket is still holding on, which is kind of nice. So I can just feed that right through there without worrying about dropping this bolt. Just going to support the starter with my left hand until I get this bolt started. You might just have to wiggle that starter around until you can find the threads. And this one's working out just fine. All right, so that's spun in. You don't want to crank on this just yet until you get the other one started. Same with the bottom bolt here. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Just be careful not to cross thread these. I'm just going to zip this on the rest of the way with this little Milwaukee. Now the torque spec that I found online is 27 foot-pounds for both of these starter bolts. And the only way I was able to get the torque wrench in here was by putting it aiming down. I'm just using a deep socket on this Gear Wrench 85062 torque wrench. And let's see if we can get that tightened down. All right, that worked. Let's see if we can do the same thing up here. Just kind of trying to fish this through where I had it to loosen it. Ah, that worked. And we'll torque this one as well to 27 foot-pounds. All right. Then we can just plug in a little signal wire here. Just make sure that that goes in and clicks. Give a little tug, make sure that it's seated in there, and that looks good. All right, now we can put the main cable on here. And it might help to pull that rubber boot back a little bit, and then we'll just put that on like so. Just make sure that these little metal tabs on this cable sit around either side of this and that it sits nice and flush. And I'm actually going to reuse the nut from the original starter. Threads are the same. I just like the idea that it's 12 millimeter. The one that they give you is a separate lock washer with a nut, but it's a 13 millimeter, and I'd rather just have a 12 on there. And this, we're just going to make this nice and snug. Now don't go crazy with that nut there, just make it nice and snug. And then we can pull that boot back over. Just press the boot back down just like that. All right, now we can put the fan back in, but I just wanted to show you, it's almost like a little hook right here on either side of the fan. When we put this in, we just need to make sure that these little hooks here, or these little plastic tabs on the fan, line up with the little mounts on either side. Just carefully put the fan back in. It should just drop straight down. Just pay attention to those little hooks. Okay, then we can plug the fan back in, like so. Snap this little part to clip that cable back in right there. Now you can buy replacement little plastic clips, but this doesn't look like it's in the way of anything. We're just gonna leave that. And then we can put those 10 millimeter bolts back in that hold that in place. Same with this one right here. Get that started, and we'll just make that snug. Then we can reconnect the little overflow tube. Reconnect the battery. All right, let's go start it up. Now, before I give this back to the owner, I'd like to start this 4 or 5 more times just to make sure that we don't have any issues with that starter. All right, sounds good. And you're done. Pretty quick and easy job. Now I took out the fan or fan shroud overflow combo in order to make room to film that. But honestly, if I were to do this again, I think I would still remove this just because there is a lot more room in there and it's a lot easier to take the starter out from above. Now don't forget, on the old starter here, you can take this back to the parts store where you bought it, and usually there's going to be a core charge and they will refund that money to you because they can rebuild this and sell that to somebody else. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. I'll get a link in the description to some of the parts and tools used in the video as well. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.